Hey, Diana, did you know that making New Year's resolutions is just plain stupid?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I'm Marc Whitehead, along with my co-host and COO of my law firm, Diana Berry. I almost went with Sing.
You were doing so well.
I know. It's been a year since you've gotten married, and it's still killing me.
Struggling, yeah.
Still struggling with the new name.
Happy New Year, though.
Happy New Year. So we're coming here today on January the 2nd. This won't be the first podcast of the new year because I think we have a few in the can from December. But I would expect this will be coming out still in the month of January. And today we're going to start with my premise, my pet peeve, which is New Year's resolutions, which I think are stupid.
I didn't know this about you.
I've always had a pet peeve about you wait till December 31st to come up with your plan for the year 2025, and you're just now starting to think about it, and you're just now starting to implement it. I'm like, that is just, to me, is insane. And we've talked about on previous podcasts about how we actually start our planning process usually in November.
We do.
And I think the point of what we're going to talk about today is planning, following, and executing on your plan for the year, which is more than just making a couple of resolutions.
Exactly. So just in case people missed that podcast and don't want to go back and listen to it, what do we do at Marc Whitehead Associates? What's our timeline? We start in November.
So we start in November, and now that we're here in January, so I was talking about it's not too late. Just because we start in November, you can start in January or whatever. But we start with looking at results from the previous year. We start looking at our budget versus our actual spending from the previous year. Where did we, our predictions, where were they right? Where were they wrong? We can kind of see, the glide path coming in. We can kind of see how our marketing efforts for the year are going to turn out. By November, December, the intake side tends to slow down. So you kind of know how you did for the year. We start looking at what did we do right and what did we do wrong and what should we do differently, what should we stop doing, and we just start working the problem that way. And then I think the final step is you start envisioning, well, where do I want to be at the end of 2025 and how do we get there?
And so you do that from, I think, all aspects of the business, financial, and then we continue operationally because then you also look at your intake numbers.
Right. So you kind of have to, hit the different levels. You start with the financial side. What's our revenue and our expense numbers are going to look like? How did our marketing do? How did our intake do? How many cases did we sign up for the year? What were the sources of those cases? What were we expecting to sign up, and was it better or worse, and why? Always ask the question, why? Then you move on to operations. Mm-hmm. What did we do well in operations? What do we want to do better? What do we want to stop doing? And then just move through each section of the firm and do the same exercise.
And so it's kind of adapted this year with EOS, but so...
And you may not actually Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Thank you. Yes. So, not everyone may know what the EOS stands for. And you may not actually know that we do this, but as you know, we did meet with each of the department heads, probably early December. We reviewed their 2024 plan to see, and we used just a very simple green, yellow, red. How did you do this year on executing on these things that we thought we were going to do in 24? And then we kind of we start them thinking on what they want to do for their 25. And then this next week, I meet with all of the department heads just one-on-one to see what they've come up with. You and I met between at the end before we both left for Christmas break and said, okay, this is what you and I think. And then so we'll kind of bring those meetings together, and then we'll have one final meeting with all three of us again at the end of January, where we say, okay, Mark, this is the final plan, stack hands, agree, and then we plan to move forward from there. So it's a series of meetings that you're not even involved with a bunch of different people, but it is really over time, 60 days of just having, hopefully, the department head thinking operationally, where have they been and where are they going? So It's not just one, okay, you get in a room one day for 4 hours, close the doors, and nobody's leaving until we come up with a plan. It's supposed to be methodical.
Right. And I think the final step on that is we have to adjust the budget accordingly, because we come out of December with a rough budget in mind for the year. But we haven't, one of the things is we haven't quite finalized the final plan until mid-January, hopefully, or later January. So we'll come back and we'll go back and do one last revision of the budget, which is shoved into the QuickBooks. And so the QuickBooks can tell us how we're tracking on our budget. But we'll make one last tweak of our projected budget, and then we're off and running. Then it's all about execution. The next 10 months out of the year is all about execution.
Exactly. And so we also, by the end of January, will have our final 24 numbers for, things like we obviously look at revenue to labor, we'll look at overtime. So you look at your they're KPIs that you've closed the year with, and based on those, you make sure that you have your right number goals for 2025. Not resolutions.
Goals. Plans, goals, executable steps.
Exactly. So we started EOS probably a little over a year ago. Was that right?
I want to say 13, 14 months ago, yes.
So how has EOS changed how you set goals, not resolutions, how you set goals for the business?
Well, I think the main thing is we've always sort of planned and set goals, but now we're doing a better job of distilling those down throughout the firm, so everybody in the firm knows what the goals are, and everybody in the firm knows why.
Yep. And so mid-December, before we left, we had our quarterly planning, which really turned into an annual planning. And from there, I think we both took away some best practices, which we're going to share kind of in the next segment, what we do that perhaps might help other firms in similar positions.
All right. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting, and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right, Diana. So on this segment, you have come up with a bit of an outline of how we execute. I really give you all the credit here. Therefore, you can take all the blame for crashes and burns.
Fair enough. So, yep. So I think we just wanted to do a different spin and talk about what we think are 3 best practices that we've come up with for goal setting, especially with the EOS adaptation in our firm. So maybe hopefully help other people not to have the same pitfalls that we've encountered over the last 4 years together.
Yes.
All right. So
we forgot a few mistakes. So.
We have done this.
Learn from those Lulus.
Yes, and learn from us. So Mark's biggest fear when it comes to goal setting. Do you want to share?
So yes, this is a phobia that I have. Every quarter when we get together at our EOS offsite and we come up with our goals for the quarter, what EOS would call rocks, I have this great fear that we are going to come up with the wrong rocks, and therefore our quarter is sort of wasted. So much so that I now have started the process of I make people come up with ideas ahead of time. So instead of us just spitballing one day and coming up with a bunch of shiny object stuff, and I'm always afraid that we'll attach to the shiny object, and
Because it's shiny.
because it's shiny. And quite frankly, I've seen this is a characteristic of my leadership team, yours truly, and you included, is that we will get shiny object syndrome and attach to a shiny object and then realize that, oh crap, this thing is not as shiny as we thought it was. And we've now wasted
A whole quarter.
a whole quarter.
So let's go back then. One, what do you consider a shiny object? I know what I've got some ideas on what I consider a shiny object, but so which would be wrong.
Right. So it's kind of hard to put a finger on it. So here's what my process would be. It was like when you see an idea, go through the 5 whys. Why is this even an issue to begin with? Like what are you trying to solve? What is this goal that you're trying to accomplish over the next 90 days? What is the ultimate issue that you're trying to solve? What is the problem you're trying to solve? Are you trying to break a bottleneck? Are you trying to, extend on a previous victory? What is it, the ultimate goal? And you kind of go through that whole 5 whys analysis of something. And, why is this even a problem? Why is this even a goal? What's the problem you're trying to solve here? And just kind of go through that analysis, because sometimes I think what you end up doing is you end up fixating on something that was never an issue to begin with, or never a serious issue.
Or you, like to your point of it being the quote unquote wrong goal. So EOS days, I don't know if it's for every firm, but for ours particularly, they can be very emotionally triggering days. And that we're in a room for 8-9 hours together. There are lots of things that come to the surface. And sometimes what I consider the quote unquote wrong goal is one that is emotionally triggering. And it's just, it can be a flash in the pan if it's not the right one. I also think, quote unquote wrong goals are those in the past where we have, it's the comparing to other firms, like, oh, we've come back from a conference.
This is the shiny object. I swear to God. So this is one I'm tagging you with.
Wow.
Yes, the whole shiny object. You had. We came back from a conference.
Oh, I did.
And somebody was saying that their case managers are handling 500, cases per case manager, and you fixated on that.
I did.
You shiny
Still
object
do.
that, and I'm like thinking, no way, dude. Just no. And all of my 32 years of experience, there's no way that can be a good idea. But it was a shiny object because it sounds really good. Hey, that would be great efficiencies if you could get
your revenue to labor.
Your revenue to labor would just go through the roof. And I'm like thinking, I just in my mind, I'm like, your client service is going to be horrible, and you're going to get so many 1-star reviews, and you're going to get so many pissed off clients. And it's the bad idea.
And even as you're saying this right now, I'm like, but wait, this could work. So.
I know, but that was a shiny object that you grasped onto that I was like, no. Bad idea. I would rather make less money and have better client service.
As I think we all do. So we're not going to go to 500 cases per case manager tomorrow. So what else would you consider a wrong goal? Or how do you know it's wrong? Do we sometimes you get to the end of the quarter.
So going back to necessary endings, it's just like something, maybe it's not a wrong goal, but maybe it's not the most right goal you could come up with. Mm-hmm. It's not the thing that should rise to that top level of priority. I mean, your 90-day goals ought to be your highest priority goals. And if you set, say, something that's number 10 on the list, as number 1 on the list, well, now you've pushed down things that were actually more important that you should have been working on. So it's not necessarily that they're the wrong goals. They're just not the most correct goals for the moment.
Nope. And I think that's actually, I'm going to skip around on you today. So actually, we're going to talk about follow through next. So I think EOS has really helped us with that because we talk about our big annual goal, right? So we just talked about that in our December meeting. And if your quarterly goal doesn't align with where you want to be at the end of the year, then that's also a good sign that you're probably chasing that next shiny object rather than staying aligned with where you thought you wanted to be. And so that's the question that I think that I ask you during our business planning meeting is, okay, Mark, it's December 31st, 2025. Of course, when we did this last year, where do you see the Veterans Disability Department? And of course, you as a visionary, that's easy for you. Whereas me, I'm like, well, we may have two more people. And so I think that that's always a good way to start the process.
Yeah. So as a visionary, I always look at, first profitability and then growth. Mm-hmm. I always start with those two premises. We want to grow, but we want to grow profitably.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes growth will eat into profits, and you have to, like we've done that over the last couple of years. We've been in growth mode, so I understand that to be in growth mode, you have to invest a lot of money, which basically pulls your profit margin down. But knowing for the greater good, it's the more of a long-term investment. So 3 to 5 years, we will be more profitable when we come out on the other end of it. But you always start with those two premises as the visionary. Now, when it starts actually now filtering down into the rest of the firm, it filters down into marketing, it filters down into intake, it filters down into operations, which means capacity. Yes, I want to bring in a whole lot of new cases. Well, do I have the capacity to handle those cases? Then do I have the financial sophistication and complexity built into the firm to be able to handle that increased caseload, that increased stress on the financial part of the business? So everything you do in a business affects another part of the business.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you kind of have to think that through. And this is kind of where you and I work well together, because of course I want to go, and you're always wait. You can't do that. That's going to affect this, and we have to build this infrastructure to support that vision, and yada yada yada. Sometimes to the point I just want to scream at you, like, no, I just want to do it now.
You do scream at me.
I know.
That's okay. I can take it. I also think that it's expansion, it's responsible scaling, right? So it's expansions. For example, our veteran disability, we're going to add a new service to that this year, and have hopefully start taking applications. Can we share that now?
We can share it. I don't know how it's going to work yet, because I haven't heard the plan.
But I think we're always thinking, right? By the end of the year, where do we want to be? And then so with that, so let's just say that that's the goal. And for those, we're not going to get technical here. That is our promise to you guys. We're not going to get technical about our practice area. But if we want to be able to take applications, there's a certain licensure that we need to have. And so by your Q1 goal or rock should be, making sure that you have the right applications in and that the people are sitting for the test, because all this is planning. And so then in the middle of the year, we're not going to get distracted by, let's do this in veteran disability instead of focusing on where we said we wanted to be at the end of the year.
Right. It's so complicated, you even confuse me. So I think I know what you're talking about.
That's okay.
What test? Do I have to take a test? Are you telling me I have to take a test?
Thankfully, no. Thankfully, not you.
Not me.
Not you. No, sir.
Oh, okay. I was sweating that one. I was like, shit, I haven't taken a test in a long time.
So I do think that as long as you're making sure you're following through, and then you make sure that if we said, you and I in our meeting, that we want to be here at the end of the year, then we send that to our department head, and then through the EOS system, they pass that down in their level 10s to their team, and they're making sure that they revisit those in each of their level 10 meetings. And in that way, really, it's as simple as I'm sure everybody else is doing, planning their meetings, doing the quarterly goals, but there's a lot of accountability inherent through EOS that we just somehow were not successful with before.
Right. And that is the thing. It's all about execution and follow through.
Yeah.
And it's since, when you grow to a certain size, it's like I can't execute and follow through on behalf of the people. I have to convince other people to do it. So it was kind of like, I know we talked about this in the prior podcast, but there's the story about how Dwight Eisenhower, who led, the D-Day invasion, was able to convince hundreds of thousands of troops to go into harm's way to take, to reinvade France. Like, how did he motivate all of those people to do that, of which 99% of these people he never even met? So he had to basically build, and of course, in the military, the structure's there. They've been building it for hundreds of years, but basically within the structure, he was able to pass the plans on down through the generals and through the colonels and through the lieutenants and down to the sergeants and down to the privates. This is the plan. This is how we're going to retake Europe. And it's sort of the same thing, when you have an organization like we do, we have 70 people. Like I can't do it for everybody.
Yeah.
I have to rely on people to get the message down throughout the ranks.
And also just inspiring them to make sure that your vision is also a shared vision, which is actually, we talked about, you mentioned that at the beginning, which is kind of, I think, our third best practice is making sure that the vision and the goal for your year isn't just something that you and I talk about and then you and I just know it. And I think that that's definitely one of, if you can learn anything, listeners, from how you and I just learn from our mistakes. We did that for 2 years. I don't count. So I was 2020 hire. I don't count 21 because we were still, in the midst of COVID. But 22, we had a business plan. And I don't think we shared it with anybody. But I certainly knew it. And we talked about it every quarter, probably every month. And we were executing and doing well. And the firm was doing well. But I don't think that it was shared with everybody. And then 23, we did a better job of passing down department head meetings but then not really doing a great job of following through with their plans. And so putting it all together, what EOS does with our quarterly meetings now, which I think they call town halls, or I don't know I guess you can call them whatever you want to, but it is an opportunity to really revisit that vision. Is that fair?
Right. So, it's one thing when you and I, as the leaders of the firm, make the plans and we write them down. They're very pretty, and we do revisit them on a quarterly basis. You and I do. But then we started breaking it down into business plans for the individual units. And then, what we did correctly is at the beginning of the year in 2023, we laid out the business plan to each of the managers for their respective departments. What we didn't do is we didn't do the quarterly follow-up like we do with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. With the whole team.
Well, not for them. We didn't even do it with the managers that year.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
We didn't do it with anybody. We just gave it to them in January and then never revisited it.
We maybe revisited it in December or something.
Well, okay, at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely not.
But not quarterly. So we missed the quarterly updates. But now what we're doing is not only we plan on doing the quarterly updates with the managers themselves, but actually making sure that it still quarterly gets driven down to the lower levels.
Yep. And so you've always, I inherited when I came on board a really great meeting structure. I mean, you had it all down with monthly, what we call all staffs, but all hands meetings. And we had monthly dashboards. So we're reviewing all the right numbers. But with EOS, now we adapt that monthly all staff to really revisiting, hey guys, this is what we said we would do both in 1 year and then our 3 year and our 5-year vision.
5-year plan.
And what we're planning on doing to achieve those 5-year goals. And so I think it's really cool the way that kind of shared by all, that structure really helps reinforce that the vision doesn't just stay between the two, the CEO and the COO.
Yeah. And you always have to remind the staff what's in it for them.
Absolutely.
What's so important about growing this law firm, just to make more money for Mark? That doesn't motivate them. But you have to remind them, we grow the law firm not only to be more profitable, but it allows us to pay higher salaries, to pay bigger bonuses. It allows us to develop a more robust and complex infrastructure, which then allows for our staff, the ability to then move up within that infrastructure, get promoted within that infrastructure. So it talked about, establishing a profit sharing plan so they could get a piece of the profits. All of this is, constantly reminding your staff of this, your team of this, that it's not just about putting more money in Mark's pocket. It's about growing the pie so everybody gets a piece of the pie.
And I think you hit the nail on the head about making sure they understand the why, because whether you're going to, listeners, be an EOS firm I think that you're still going to be moving cheese in your firm to get buy-in for your plan, for your goal. We're not going to call them resolutions, but for your 25 goal. So we moved cheese when everyone started to do level 10 meetings. I mean, we heard so much. We had pushback. You want me to add a 90-minute meeting to my already built-in schedule? And now our people pretty unanimously across the department say that the level 10 meeting is their favorite part of the week, and they look forward to that opportunity to really meet with their department heads in a very focused way. And so when you're moving cheese, it's important to get buy-in from your people and reminding them of the why is important. So I think in our next segment,
Yes. What are we doing in our final segment?
Marc's going to get vulnerable and share his.
God, I hate this.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I'm very confused about it. But Marc's going to share his personal and a professional goal for 25. And if we have time, maybe I'll share some of mine too.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely sharing yours.
Well, we
You're
want to
not
make sure you
getting
have
away
time
with
with
this. All right, and we'll be right back.
I'm Marc Whitehead, a lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks so much for tuning into the Successful Barrister podcast. We have a blast creating it, and I hope you find it helpful. If our chats have sparked your interest, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. That's Mark spelled with a C. Enjoying the Successful Barrister newsletter. Even better, let's hop on a call. I'd love to chat about how we can collaborate, share ideas, or just catch up.
All right, Diana. So our last segment, you had some plans to make me vulnerable. So how are we doing this?
Well, I just thought, I mean, you know what? I think it'd be cool to share some of your goals, and maybe at the end of the year, we can see how you did on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not New Year's resolutions,
Not
but
New
do
Year's
you
resolutions.
have a 2025? Let's start with professional goal first. 2025 professional goal.
Yes. So my goal is to get back to being more of a people person. And I kind of think of that being as a more one-on-one marketer.
Okay.
So I think the pandemic kind of knocked me out of my stride. So prior to the pandemic, I was at everything. I was at all the luncheons. I was at all the meetings. I was at everything. I was always there networking with my colleagues. And I, enjoyed doing that. So Houston trial lawyer luncheons, HBA lunches, TTLA stuff. I would probably have at least one or two of those types of lunches a week and get out, be seen. And I think the pandemic sort of knocked us off of that. And not that I should have gotten back to it in 2022, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So I think this year in 2025, I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to get back to getting out there and pressing the flesh and just, hanging out with my colleagues. We're not getting any younger. I just turned 58. Most of the guys I hang out with are in their 50s or 60s, and we're not going to be around forever. So I want to go back and just reestablish those relationships a little bit better, a little bit stronger. Life is all about relationships. And you shouldn't neglect your relationships. So I think I haven't told them all to go to hell or anything. I just haven't spent as much time as I used to.
Very cool. So I like it, but everyone knows that goals have to be smart, specific, measurable, all the things. So, what is your SMART goal?
So I want to go to 2 luncheons a month minimum.
2 lunches a month minimum. Perfect.
That's the goal. So that's why I'm sitting here looking over at Mac. Nod your head. 2 lunches a month minimum. That's group lunches, but I also want to do at least 2 lunches a month minimum one-on-ones.
Oh.
So 2 and 2. That's how I'm going to measure this goal. Now to do that, I am going to need to let go of a thing or two, because that takes time. And I've gotten into the habit lately of sitting around eating lunch at my desk because it's quick and easy and I can get more productive stuff done. But I'm going to break that habit. And I don't know. I'm probably going to try to expound upon that a little bit more in depth.
Good.
But this is a start. 2 and 2.
I like
the
it.
goal.
Perfect. So do you want to do your
What is your professional goal?
My professional goal is to attend the EOS Integrator Masterclass. So Rocket Fuel puts one on, and it should be really simple, right? So it should be low hanging fruit for me, but it's a carryover from 2024. So that's why I'm putting the pressure by telling everybody that this is my 2025 goal, because already I've put it off they only hold for a year. So there is that complication that I'm limited by my time, but I've already put off the Q1 class and it's in Dallas because of timing. And there is all the, last year one was during spring break, and of course I'm not doing that. But this one's in Dallas in January, and I've already found a reason not to go. But, I think it's very important. Some of our ADA cousins, I think Tom Tona mentioned to you that his integrator went and just came back with so many great ideas and just was a better integrator for him. So I think it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I'm bringing my best to the firm that I attend the class. And so that's my goal for 25.
So they have a class for visionaries as well, do they?
They do.
Okay.
They do. And it's a one-day thing. So
you need
I don't
to find me the class. I need to go. If you're going to do your class, I got to do mine.
Okay. Well, but it's my goal. Okay. So, but that's my 2025 goal, and I'm going to stop putting it off. I'm going to stop finding reasons not to do this.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So now you've also, if we have time, we're going to do what's your personal goal?
So my personal goal is the same as my professional goal, which is to build my personal relationships. And number one, I'm going to start with my wife. So my wife was kind enough for my birthday to give me a notebook.
Oh,
and she hand wrote in it that we were going to start having monthly reflection meetings together. And she gave me a whole list of things, what am I grateful about this month? What are my concerns about what happened this month? What do I hope will happen the next month? How can we spend more time together? And there's a whole series of steps that she hand wrote down. My wife's a psychologist, so she's way ahead of the game on this stuff, which puts me at a great disadvantage, by the way. But so she wrote this whole thing out. So we're going to start doing that on a monthly basis, maybe even more often than monthly, but at least monthly. So I'm going to start working on building an even better relationship, but making it even better. Because quite frankly, my wife always criticizes me. She goes, my wife has a bunch of friends. She goes, Mark, you don't have any friends. I'm like, I have a bunch of friends. She goes, yeah, but your friends are all my friends. I'm like, okay, point taken, because that's typically true. All of my friends are the husbands of her friends. She goes, you need to work on your own independent friend network. I'm like, well, I'm friends with literally hundreds of people through my profession. She goes, but
friends.
But are they friends?
Got it.
I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to work on that.
Okay.
Because, one of the things you learn, that's one of the things when I went to the Atticus Living to 125 course, was one of the key indicators of people who actually live long and live well are people who have quality relationships that last. So this is what I'm working on this year, this from a personal perspective.
I love it. So I'm not going to even push you on the SMART goal because I love that so much. And so I don't think you give yourself enough credit. Yes, you are at a disadvantage because of what, she is a psychologist. But I think you don't give yourself enough credit because that sounds very Atticus-y. Can I make that a adjective or whatever that is?
Atticus-y.
Atticus-y. That is that outline she gave you sounds very Atticus-y. So hopefully your professional and personal overlap there. And actually, I have heard or read the same thing that you just echoed, that women actually do tend to live longer because women are obviously just better at relationships or their own friendships.
Well, as we learned at Atticus from the
the guy at Summit,
Glenn Finch, as Glenn Finch pointed out, he actually is a psychology major as well and did some studies on this. But all men are born brain damaged.
And there was so much more to that. We're not going to get into that.
Yes, but he basically said it's true. All men are born brain damaged the way the brain forms in the male.
As it relates to, particularly with relationships.
As it relates to relationships.
We will get into that differently. So in the last few minutes that we have together today, my 2025 personal goal is to work on my flexibility or my stretching. Was that fair? 5 times a week, 5 out of 7 days. So I didn't realize that how important, or the tie between flexibility and just, again, healthy aging. So
That's the reason I go to Stretch Zone every week.
which isn't a workout, by the way.
Stretch Lab, rather. Stretch Lab.
Not a
Used to be
workout.
Stretch Zone.
But yes, I didn't realize that. So
No, it's not a workout. It's simply stretching.
stretching, and I didn't know that there was a correlation between your flexibility and your continued just bone health, but also just your mobility, I guess, as you get older. And I've definitely felt that as I've gotten well into my 40s. Not well, but into my 40s.
And what I hate to tell you is it's a losing battle.
Okay.
But it's like you're just delaying it, but better to delay it than not.
But I do think, yes, exactly. And so you have to at least counteract it, or you have to do something. So I have to believe that I can control something.
Yeah, my wife is always, why are you so stiff? You go to this Stretch Lab every week, and like, imagine what I would be like if I didn't go.
That's my great fear. So I've been vulnerable and shared. So 5 times a week, I'm going to work on my flexibility / on my stretching, and hopefully be more flexible by the end of the year.
That's
Or at
really
least
the goal.
stop the damage.
Yeah, stop the slide.
Stop the slide. Gosh, that's terrifying. So we hope that this has helped you guys with don't do what we do.
Right.
Or learn from our mistakes.
Learn from us. Yes, I've made every mistake in the book. So with that, I'm getting the high sign that we're out of time. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. Remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with one or more of your friends. Let's grow the list. And visit us at successfulbarrister.com. And be sure to visit our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm, at disabilitydenials.com. And with that, we're out of here.
Bye.